Welcome everyone. Welcome to Spectacular Summer Reads, St. Louis County Library's virtual program for Adult Summer Reading Club. I am Sarah and I am an adult services librarian for Readers Advisory, which is like matchmaking between readers of books. And we're really excited to have you here for this summer book talk virtual event. So before we get started, just a few, Zoom tips before we get into the main part of our program, in case tonight is your first virtual program with us. So tonight's program is in a webinar format, which means that your camera and microphone are not active, so no one can see or hear you. If you are having trouble seeing or hearing us, though, we suggest that you turn the volume up on your device, or you leave the webinar, move a little bit closer to your Wi-Fi router, and rejoin us. And usually leaving and rejoining can help with any connection problems you have. Although we can't hear you, you can communicate with us. So if you do have questions, you can enter them via the chat. That icon looks like a little speech bubble with the word chat in your icon bar. And the questions go just to us presenters, and we will answer questions at the end of the presentation in a Q&A section. So, like I said, tonight's presenters, I'm Sarah. I work in the Adult Services Department. I'm joined by Harry, who also works in Adult Services, Lee from Bridgeton Trails, and Tammy from Parkview. And all of the books that we're going to talk about tonight are available through the library, either in print or any media. If you registered before, say, 1 o'clock this afternoon, you may have gotten an email from us with a handout with all of the titles we're going to talk about tonight. And the covers on those handouts are clickable. So if you click on them, it will take you to our catalog where you can place a hold. If you didn't get that handout, no worries. We are recording tonight's presentation, and when the recording is available on our YouTube channel, I'll be sending out a follow-up email that will also have that handout attached to it. So no need to take notes necessarily. You have that handout that you can follow along with. So I will go ahead and get us started with our picks tonight. So all of my picks, when I in the summertime, I like to read things that are fun. So that's sort of my vibe for the summer. And that's what most of my picks will be like today. So this pick, though, is a little bit on the deeper side. This is How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy by Jenny Odell. And yeah, like I said, it's a little bit, more deeper, but it is about the importance of doing things that are enjoyable and not just productive. So I think it's a good book to set up like my overall theme for the rest of my picks. In this book, Odell argues that our attention has become a commodity that is bought and sold and optimized and branded and atomized into little bits, right? And she claims that simply quitting or detoxing or dropping out, whether for a day or forever, isn't really enough. And that option is really only available to, those who are socioeconomically privileged anyway. So she gives us some ways to reclaim our attention so that we can focus it again on enjoyment, connection, and understanding. And Odell mentions libraries actually in the book, along with bird watching, but she mentions libraries with their collective spaces and resources as a particularly important place to do this work. The book came out in 2019, so some of the references, like the political, economic, and technological references that she makes are already dated. Like, for example, she doesn't, mention ChatGPT or TikTok, but that doesn't make the book less relevant. In fact, it shows just how much more powerful the attention economy has become in the intervening years. This pick may not seem surprising if you watched other book talk programs that I've done where I've talked about books like Wintering and Enchantment by Catherine May, 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman, and This Is Not a Book About Benedict Cumberbatch by Tabitha Carvin. And although all of those books are quite different in tone and suggest different tactics, they all emphasize the importance of not only taking back our attention from those who seek to co-opt it and sell it, but to focus our attention on things that are important to us and to the worlds that we want to create. Whether that's nature, art, justice, embodiment, family, joy, connection, any of those things. So I hope that our book picks tonight provide you with an opportunity to focus your attention on something enjoyable and meaningful to you. Okay, so My next pick is Paperback Crush by Gabrielle Moss. And when I think of summer, I just like long for those days of my youth when, I had like a whole day of reading at the pool or lounging in my room ahead of me, and I could devour book after book in my favorite series. And so, if you have nostalgia for those days too, and you were a kid in the 80s or 90s, then this book is going to unlock some core memories for you. Um, so Moss covers the golden age of YA books, how they came to be, how they impacted both the wider culture and individual readers. And she organizes the book thematically with chapters on love, friends, family, school, jobs, danger, and terror. And most of us probably remember the most popular series from the time, which are still easily obtainable today, like The Babysitter's Club and Sweet Valley High. But yeah, reading this book, I was reminded of so many books that I had loved but forgot like completely forgotten about, like the Tammy Sinclair series, The Face on the Milk Carton, Behind the Attic Wall, and Camp Girl Meets Boy. I as a kid was like really obsessed with this idea of going away to sleepaway camp for like the whole summer when I was a kid. So I read a lot of camp books. And anyway, Moss does a really excellent job of discussing the appeal of these books and like what teens get out of them. And the design of the book is also just delightfully nostalgic. You can kind of tell from the cover here. It uses the colors and fonts and graphics of that era. So if you were a really big reader in the 80s and 90s, definitely check this one out. And you may rediscover and be inspired to reread some of these classics, even if it won't earn you a personal pan pizza these days. Okay, so my next pick is The Eyes in the Impossible by Dave Eggers. And this book is a children's book, technically a children's book. It was the winner of this year's Newbery Medal Award. But I believe this is the kind of book that has profound truths and universal appeal for readers of all ages. The book is narrated by Johannes, a free dog who lives in this large urban park that is very reminiscent of Golden Gate Park, although not exactly the same. Uh, he spends his days like basking in the sun and playing in the ocean and running faster the wind, people watching and hanging out with his fellow animal park residents. The wise elders of this animal community are three bison that live in an enclosure in the park. And Johannes acts as the eyes, capital T, capital E, watching everything that goes on and reporting it to the bison so that they can make decisions and maintain the equilibrium, capital T, capital E, in the park. But a close brush with losing his freedom, along with the introduction of new animals and new entrancing man made objects in the park, has Johannes questioning that equilibrium and his place in it. He's willing to risk it all to maintain his own freedom and the freedom of his friends. But what does it really mean to be free? This book is great in both paper and in audio since it has lovely painterly illustrations that are very similar to what you see on the cover. And the audio is narrated by Ethan Hawke. So I'd recommend it in either or both formats, one that you could read and listen to at the same time. If you love books that express deep insight and are appealing for both the young and the young at heart, like, say, Winnie the Pooh, The Little Prince, and The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, then you are really going to love this one. Okay, my next pick is I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle. This is the newest book by the author of the fantasy classic The Last Unicorn. In fact, it just came out in May, and I finished it quite recently. It's set in a world in which dragons are everywhere, from little tiny dragons that can infest your pantry to enormous ones that, eat cattle and burn down houses. And Robert is a young man who seems to have a special ability to communicate with dragons, and unfortunately, he has inherited his father's dragon extermination business, which he hates, but he does anyway in order to pay the bills. And um, he gets the opportunity, though, to find a new career track when he is called to the castle to do a very long overdue and heavy dragon extermination because the princess, who usually turns down every marriage proposal, has fallen hard for a visiting prince and wants the castle to be in its best condition to impress him. And the prince, however, isn't at all interested in marriage or royal duties in general, for that matter. but he has been sent on a mission by his father to, prove his worth as a prince. So the prince's valet convinces Robert to help the prince hunt and kill a dragon before marrying the princess in exchange for teaching Robert how to be a royal valet and giving him some connections. And the entire entourage, including the princess, goes on this dragon hunting trip, which of course doesn't go as planned for any of them because there is a dragon force not seen in ages that seems to be rising. And along the way, these three young people, right, the dragon exterminator, the princess, and the prince, who are all reluctantly filling roles that society has foisted on them, will find out who they really are in this sort of battle. If you love fantasy that is like funny but also heartfelt, and you're a fan of Travis Baldree, who you can see on the cover has blurbed this book, or Terry Pratchett, then you will definitely like this one. Okay, my next pick is the Kamigawa Food Detectives. And normally I leave the mysteries to Harry, but this one is a little bit different than the kind that he often reads because these mysteries in this book don't revolve around murder or heists, but around forgotten meals of the past. The book takes place in this tiny hidden Kyoto restaurant called the Kamogawa Diner. It's run by a father and daughter team. And although you can, of course, buy delicious food there, its real purpose is as a front for their food detective business. So clients find them via a cryptic magazine ad, and then they ask them to hunt down dishes that they remember from their past, but haven't been able to find again or to recreate. And the daughter, Koishi, interviews them about the dish, like when and where did they eat it? What do they remember about how it tasted? Why is it important to them and why are they wanting to find it now? And then the father, Nagare, sets about unraveling the mystery. The client is then invited back 2 weeks later to enjoy the meal. And like a detective in a classic Agatha Christie mystery, Nagare lays out all of the clues and how they led him to the dish. But of course, in the end, it isn't really just the food that these clients are looking for, right? They're looking for a feeling, a memory, insight into themselves and their situation. And each of these meals helps the client to resolve like a personal issue. So this first book in the series is a set of 6 linked short stories, each with its own food mystery and memory. And along the way, you also learn a lot more about the Kamagawas and why they have this unusual business. If you love food, then you will definitely love this book. The descriptions of the dishes and their aromatic ingredients are like exquisite. And you'll also like this book if you're a fan of introspective and heartwarming Asian lit, like Before the Coffee Gets Cold and Welcome to the Hunandong Bookshop, that explore sort of the meaning in personal interactions and everyday experiences. And of course, if you like this book and you want another helping, the second book is actually in the series is actually coming out in October. Okay. And then my final book I'm going to talk about is forthcoming. So each of us are going to talk about a book that is coming out a bit later this year. And so my forthcoming pick is The Life Impossible by Matt Haig. It's coming out September 3rd. And actually, all of the forthcoming books we're going to talk about are already in the library catalog. So on that handout, you can click on the cover and put yourself on the hold list. So The Life Impossible by Matt Haig. It's coming out September 3rd. I have read several of Matt Haig's books, so I was really excited to hear that he was coming out with a new one. Because whether writing fiction or nonfiction, his books explore the themes of what it means to be human and what makes life worth living. And he does it in a writing style that is like lyrical and warm and thought-provoking. And his book, The Midnight Library, was actually my favorite book that I read in 2021. So in this book, a retired math teacher is left a rundown house on the island of Ibiza by an old friend. So she travels there on a one-way plane ticket with no plan except to figure out, what happened to her friend and why she was bequeathed this house. But when she gets there, she finds a letter from her friend and she ends up on an adventure of wonder, truth, healing, and hidden powers. So, funnily enough, given that I referenced a book that references him when discussing my first pick, the actor Benedict Cumberbatch has blurbed this book and says it's, quote, A beautiful novel full of life-affirming wonder and imagination, and at its adventurous heart, a wry and tender love letter to the best of being human, end quote. Publishers Weekly says that, quote, in Haig's sure hands, magic comes to breathing life, end quote. So it sounds to me like it will be just as magical and thoughtful as Haig's other work. So I hope that you check it out. And on that note, I am going to hand it over to Harry.
Thanks, Sarah. So all the picks tonight are really great. My picks are the kind that I would want if I was going on a long trip. I want to be totally engrossed. So think either Frida McFadden or Colleen Hoover. And with that, I'm going to ask you to fasten your seatbelts and let's go. My first book, Seven Summers, I would describe as Colleen Hoover light. Liv meets Finn in Cornwall every year while they're single. So they've got this agreement and they meet for 7 straight summers. But then what happens? A new tenant comes to the island and it's Tom. So now we've got this intense love triangle between 3 people. And of course, Liv has tragedy in her past, which she has to overcome, just like in a Colleen Hoover book. So the book bounces back and forth non-chronologically between past and present relationships. And the question is anybody going to prevail in this mess? You have to read. I really enjoyed this book. Not only that, but the author has a music playlist at the end and discussion questions, which I thought was really clever. So again, Colleen Hoover Light, if you like that kind of book. My second book, I will call this Kevin Kwan Light. I'm currently listening to Lies and Weddings by Kevin Kwan, and I had it on double speed for the audiobook. I had to slow it down because he packs so much information in his books. This is a lighter book, probably more suitable for on the beach or on a plane. In this book, Tata Hawkins bolts out of her Monkton Bottom Manor estate in England after a fight with her husband and takes her daughter Minty with her, as well as their servant or butler, Ian. Ian is quite a hoot. So, of course, we're going to have drama because she's estranged from her husband, and a wealthy divorcee inherits the property next door. And then Tata also has to deal with her friends as well as her frenemies in this English landed gentry setting. So we've got castles, designer clothing envy, butler stealing. It's got everything. It's a satire, of course, like Kevin Kwan's books, but hopefully a little bit deeper than that. I think you'll enjoy it if you want a summer read. My third book, this summer will be different. So it's a romance book, and I can appreciate a good romance. It's a first-person narrative. Florist Lucy, who lives in DC, visits her best friend Bridget on Prince Edward Island every summer. There are only 3 rules that Bridget has laid down. Eat your weight in oysters, leave the city behind, and by all means, do not get involved with my brother. Well, which rule do you think that she breaks? Lucy rushes to help Bridget out for an emergency girls meetup right before Bridget's wedding. And of course, who is there but the younger brother that she's not supposed to have anything to do with? So this book is about finding yourself, finding your home. One reviewer described it as a sweet and steamy romance. It's a romance. It was an enjoyable book. What can I say? But I'm not going to give you all romance books. My fourth book is John Marrs' The Vacation. John Marrs writes fast-paced thrillers, and this is no exception. We have 8 strangers who are staying at a Venice Beach, California youth hostel. Everybody's got a secret, but everybody is linked. They just don't know that they are linked. Nicole, a nurse, is traveling Route 66 to honor a deceased patient. Savannah is on the run from men who have been hired by her evangelist father to kidnap her. Maddie and Declan are visiting from Ireland, and they want to cram as much as they can into their lives before they hit a deadline. Well, what's the deadline? Eric is an Englishman who is also desperate to reinvent his life. Ruth is from Australia and is there to meet her Hollywood star idol. So we have flashbacks, short chapters, and an explosive finale as we find out how these people are all linked. I really like John Mars. If you want a fast-paced thriller, this one's for you. My next book is Lovers and Liars by Amanda Ira Ward. And this one, I don't know how to describe it. Let's just call it a family drama. So we have the three Peacock sisters who haven't spoken to each other for 10 years, and they are reuniting for Sylvie's wedding in England. Sylvie is a widowed librarian. You have to love that. And Sylvie is about to marry Simon, a rich Englishman who loves to go after birds, to observe birds. But is Simon who he says he is? Cleo, a criminal lawyer who's Sylvie's sister, doesn't think so. So Cleo is going to get to the bottom of Simon's background. But Cleo's got her own secrets. And why is she after Simon anyway? We also have Emma, the third sister, who is broke, but doesn't want to reveal to anybody why she's broke, not even to her family. Stir this all up and add Donna, their toxic mother, who shows up. So we have alternate points of view. We have themes of love, forgiveness, healing, unity, and of course, family drama. And we also have castles. I think we have 3 books with castles in this book, in this list. I'm going to give you my final book, which is the upcoming one, The Plus One. Okay, so I'm going to give you another thriller. And this one involves a power couple, Indian American, who are getting married in a destination wedding in Mexico. They're found murdered right before the wedding. The Mexican police blame drug cartels. Of course, no one's able to solve the crime, but this is a grisly murder. Who did it? Shay Kapoor is the plus one. She is dating the groom's best friend. She has secrets of her own. She tries to unravel the killings. So we have twists in this book, a strong female main character, and unreliable characters. Just what you need for your airplane ride. I'm going to turn this over to Lee.
Hello. My name is Lee, and I work at the Bridgeton Trails branch. I wanted to start off by saying that I chose my picks based on the vibes I got while reading the books. Not all of them take place during the summer, but they have certain elements that make me think of summer, whether that be warm temperatures, baked goods, outdoor activities, vacations, etc. So let's just jump in with my first pick, which is The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. If you are looking for something suspenseful to read this summer, might I suggest this one? As kids, Emily and Chess were inseparable, but by their 30s, their bond has been strained by the demands of their adult lives. So when Chess suggests a girls' trip to Italy, Emily jumps at the chance to reconnect with her best friend. Villa Astris in Orvieto is a high-end holiday home now, but in 1974, it was known as Villa Rosato and rented for the summer by a notorious rock star, Noel Gordon. In an attempt to reignite his creative spark, Noel invites up-and-coming musician Pierce Sheldon to join him, as well as Pierce's girlfriend Mari and her stepsister Laura. But he also sets in motion a chain of events that leads to Mari writing one of the greatest horror novels of all time, Laura composing a platinum album, and ends in Pierce's brutal murder. As Emily digs into the villa's complicated history, she begins to think there might be more to the story of that fateful summer in 1974, that perhaps Pierce's murder wasn't just a tale of sex, drugs, and rock and roll gone wrong, but that something more sinister might have occurred, and that there might be clues hidden in the now iconic works that Mari and Laura left behind. Yet the closer that Emily gets to the truth, the more tension she feels developing between her and Chess. As secrets from the past come to light, equally dangerous betrayals from the present also emerge, and it begins to look like the villa will claim another victim before the summer ends. As you can probably tell from the synopsis, this is a dual timeline suspense novel. I definitely enjoyed not one but both timelines, and I felt several of the characters resonated with me in different ways. I chose this novel because it actually does take place during the summer and it takes place in another country, so it felt very much like a summer getaway in a far-off place. The next book I will be talking about is Birding with Benefits by Sarah T. Dubb. This book is for people who want characters with hobbies just as much as romance. So the synopsis reads, newly divorced, almost empty nester Celeste is finally seeking adventure and putting herself first. So when a friend asks Celeste to partner with his buddy John for an event, Celeste throws herself into the role of his temporary girlfriend. But quiet cinnamon roll John isn't looking for love, just birds. He needs a partner for Tucson's biggest bird watching contest, and if he's ever going to launch his own guiding business. By the time they untangle their cross signals, they've become teammates, and thanks to his meddling friends, a fake couple. Celeste can't tell a sparrow from a swallow, but John is a great teacher, and the hours they spend hiking in the Arizona wilderness feed Celeste's hunger for new adventures, while giving John a chance to practice his dream job. As the two spend more time together, they end up watching more than just the birds, and their chemistry becomes undeniable. Since they're both committed to the single life, Celeste suggests a status upgrade, birders with benefits, just until the contest is done. But as the bird count goes up and their time together ticks down, John and Celeste will have to decide if their benefits can last a lifetime or if this love affair is for the birds. I really enjoyed reading this one. I'm very particular on my romance novels, but this one was great and got me kind of interested in bird watching or birding myself. It feels like summer, partially because the majority of the book takes place during the summer, but also because a new hobby that takes place outdoors sounds like it would be on a summer bucket list, like mine, for instance. Next is Bloom by Delilah S. Dawson. This will be for those that like horror as well as a little romance. Rosemary meets Ash at the farmer's market. Ash, precise, pretty, and practically perfect, sells bars of soap in delicate pastel colors, sprinkles, spackled cupcakes stacked on scalped stands, beeswax candles, jelly jars of honey, and glossy green plants. Ro has never felt this way about another woman. With Ash, she wants to be her and have her in equal measure. But as her obsession with Ash consumes her, she may find she's not the only one doing the devouring. I was extremely intrigued with this one. This is a novella, so it's shorter than the average book, but I don't feel like that took away from anything. It's a horror romance, just based on the farmer's market vibe as well as the goods Ash is selling. I did feel similar vibes from reading it. So I'm sure most of you have probably heard of a Netflix show called Bridgerton by now. Well, the first season of the show follows the first book called The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. The first book is set in 1813 during the Regency era. In the ballrooms and drawing rooms of Regency London, rules abound. From their earliest days, children of aristocrats learn how to address an earl, curtsy before a prince, while other dictates of the ton are unspoken yet universally understood. A proper duke should be imperious and aloof. A young marriageable lady should be amiable, but not too amiable. Daphne Bridgerton has always failed at the latter. The fourth of 8 siblings in her close-knit family, she has formed friendships with the most eligible young men in London. Everyone likes Daphne for her kindness and wit, but no one truly desires her. She is simply too deuced honest for that, too unwilling to play the romantic games that captivate gentlemen. Amiability is not a characteristic shared by Simon Basset, Duke of Hastings. Recently returned to England from abroad, he intends to shun both marriage and society, just as his callous father shunned Simon throughout his painful childhood. Yet an encounter with his best friend's sister offers another option. If Daphne agrees to a fake courtship, Simon can deter the mamas who parades their daughters before him. Daphne, meanwhile, will see her prospects and her reputation soar. The plan works like a charm at first, but amid the glittering, gossipy, cutthroat world of London's elite, there is only one certainty: love ignores every rule. So I chose this one because the social season, from what I have gathered, is in the spring and summer months. So it definitely had summer vibes going along with a little bit of gossip. I definitely suggest this one if you want to live in the Regency era a little longer than it takes to get through the series. There are 8 books in the Bridgerton series alone, and she also has written some others set in that same time period as well. Next is a book I recently finished just this past weekend, actually, and that's A Sure Thing by Joanna Lowell. It is also set back in time, this time in 1888, so it was during the Victorian era. So it's also another historical romance. Former painter and unreformed rake Kit Griffith is forging a new life in Cornwall, choosing freedom over an identity that didn't fit. He knew that leaving his sisterhood of women artists might mean forfeiting the artistic community forever. He didn't realize he would lose his ability to paint altogether. Luckily, he has other talents. Why not devote himself to selling bicycles and trysting with the holidaymakers? Enter Muriel Pendrake, the feisty New York-bound botanist who has come to St. Ives to commission Kit for illustrations of British seaweeds. Kit shouldn't accept Muriel's offer, but he must enlist her help to prove to an all-male cycling club that women can ride as well as men, and she won't agree unless he gives her what she wants. Maybe that's exactly the challenge he needs. As Kit and Muriel spend their days cycling together, their desire begins to burn with the heat of the summer sun. But are they pedaling towards something impossible? The past is bound to catch up to them, and at the season's end, then their paths will diverge. With only their hearts as guides, Kit and Muriel must decide if they're willing to race into the unknown for the adventure of a lifetime. I thought it was a very charming story that had its fair share of internal struggles. It was a surprisingly good romance novel and one that is now a must-have on my personal bookshelf. Last but not least is the book that I'm looking forward to reading. The Astrology House by Karen Jade comes out on July 16th, so that's actually very soon. And I think it sounds very intriguing. This one takes place at a retreat. So the synopsis says, Margot needs a minute. She's been working 80-hour weeks as a newly minted partner at her law firm. She's disconnected from her brother, the only family she has left. And she's still not pregnant after years of trying. Stars Harbor Astrological Retreat promises rest, relaxation, and wisdom for Margot and her friends. With Instagram-worthy views and nightly astrology readings and an impeccably restored waterfront Victorian house, this getaway should be nothing but idyllic fun. For Margot's brother Adam, it's the perfect opportunity to rekindle the romance that fuels his writing, but his wife Amy hides the darkness of her past with a beautiful social media feed. Their friend, Farah, is a successful doctor who cannot admit she's losing control, but no one holds a greater secret than their astrologer host, Rennie. She has a plan for all her guests, and one won't be leaving Stars Harbor alive. It takes place at a retreat, and the fact that it is a waterfront getaway feels very summery to me. And that concludes my picks for Spectacular Summer Reads. I'm now going to turn it over to Tammy.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tammy from the Parkview branch. I chose my picks because most of them are paperbacks, and I love books that you can just take with you and you just throw in your bag. So that's great for the summer. All right, let's get into it. My first one is This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. This is one of the hottest romance books so far this year from one of the hottest romance authors of the year. You may have seen her on the Today Show, and she's been featured on NPR. I had the pleasure of meeting her last spring when she came to St. Louis. I call this book a modern romance, which is slated to be a TV series on the Peacock Network. Now, let's go. Soledad Barnes has her life all planned out. She is what some would call a domestic goddess. She is thriving. That is, until her husband does the unthinkable. And let me say, he does a lot of bad things, okay? Soledad is forced to rebuild her life and her children's lives, all while her husband is in jail for embezzlement. While rebuilding her life, she becomes a viral sensation. Then steps in Judah Cross, the man who is responsible for sending her husband to jail. Listen, the way Kennedy Ryan describes Judah Cross, you just know he is good looking. When Judah comes into Soledad's life, she wonders, can she trust him? Has he entered her life at the right time? Is she ready for a second chance at love? Read this book to find out. I really enjoyed this book, and so did my virtual book club. I enjoyed all the characters in this book. This is 5 out of 5 for me. Soledad overcomes some tough situations, but she learns to navigate through them, and that resonated with a lot of people in my book club who read this book. If you're a fan of series, this is book number 2 in the Skyland series, and book number 3 is coming in the spring of 2025. My next book is Park Avenue Summer by Renee Rosen. It's 1965 in New York City. And here comes Alice Weiss, a young woman from a small Midwestern town who lands the job of a lifetime. Or does she? She has been hired to work for the new editor-in-chief, Helen Gurley Brown, as Gurley Brown tries to save the famous Cosmopolitan magazine. Folks at the magazine are resigning, it's gossip, it's a lot going on because they are upset with Helen Gurley Brown because of her recent scandalous best-selling book. People try to pull Alice into a scheme to sabotage Helen, but Alice becomes loyal to Helen and wants to see her succeed at saving the magazine. If you love nostalgia, glitz, and glamour, I mean, look at the cover. If you're a fan of the movie The Devil Wears Prada, then this book is for you. I really enjoyed this book. This is one of my all-time favorites, and I could read this book over and over again. Renee Rosen has also written a novel based on the life of Estee Lauder called Fifth Avenue Glamour Girl. My next one is The Seaside Cafe by Rochelle Allers. On the beautiful Coast Island off the coast of North Carolina, the Seaside Cafe has served delicious food to locals and island tourists for 30 years. Kayana Johnson has moved home to help her brother run the cafe and to nurse her wounds following a deep betrayal. Between cooking favorite recipes, Creole chicken with buttermilk waffles, her grandmother's famous macaroni and cheese, and spending time reading, Kayana is trying to embrace a new life, all the while staying open to new connections. After striking up a conversation with 2 customers, Kayana suggests a summer book club. This is great. Each week, they'll meet on the patio to talk about their favorite novels, but there are plot twists awaiting all of them. For school teacher Leah, this 2-month sojourn is the first taste of freedom she's had in her unhappy marriage. Cherie, she's filled with regret about her long-term affair with a married politician. Oh my. But she discovers a new passion while she's on the island. And Kiana finds a kindred spirit in a reclusive visitor who's ready to make his true identity known and fill this summer with new possibilities. I love the development of each character in this book. And if you like a little romance, if you're part of a book club, if you like friendships, then you'll like this book. My next one is What You Leave Behind by Wanda M. Morris. She has wrote 2 other books that are excellent. This is her 3rd book. As we continue to move down the coast, we meet Dina Woods, whose life has fallen apart after losing her mother and her marriage and her prestigious job at a law firm in Atlanta. She needs what the Geechee people of coastal Georgia call a day clean, which also means a fresh start. She returns home, and the book opens with her driving through the small town of Brunswick, Georgia. As she's driving one day, she stumbles upon an oceanfront property of a widower who is in the fight to keep his land that has been in his family since the end of the Civil War. He tells her never to return, and soon he disappears. Dina becomes curious and starts to investigate his disappearances and his twists and turns, and she opens up a whole can of worms that I don't think she wanted to open up. We talking illegal activities and questionable redevelopments. So if you love thrillers, twists and turns, and whodunit stories, then this book is for you. Mickey Chambers Shakes It Up by Cherish Reed. Mickey needs money, okay? She's an adjunct college professor with a chronic disease and her medical bills are piling up. She sees a help wanted sign in the window of a local bar, and the next thing you know, Mickey is a bartender. After the death of his wife, Diego takes over that bar and becomes Mickey's boss. But he's more than her boss. He's also one of the students in her summer classes that she teaches. As the summer progresses, we follow Mickey along her journey of becoming a bartender. She takes the bar to new heights. They start doing karaoke, having drink specials. All the while, she is juggling being an adjunct college professor and possibly falling for Diego. It's another romance. Diego is dealing with the loss of his wife, yet trying to fulfill his dream of becoming a college graduate. They have to keep it professional, but their feelings are becoming stronger and stronger. I love this book because it was a quick read, and the characters, the people that come in the bar, the other people that work in the bar, this book is great. This was my first time reading her, and I look forward to more of her work. In a League of Her Own by Kaya Alderson. I have been waiting for this book. It combines my love of sports and historical fiction. Slated to hit the bookshelves on August 6th comes the much anticipated story of Effa Manley, the first woman to own the Negro Leagues baseball team and the only woman inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. This book takes us to New York City in the 1930s. Effa Manley is a civil rights champion, but also has an eye for business. She's interrupted the status quo and was often told that a woman's place was in the home. Oh, no. After her husband appointed her to be the team's business manager, she says, I want to own the team, and I will see to it that they go to the Negro League championships, and they do that in 1946. Effa Manley's story is one for the ages, a story of will and determination. And this is another one of my picks. I can't wait to read it because with the recent news of Major League Baseball recognizing the Negro Leagues and its players' accomplishments, this book comes at the right time. Sports fans have been waiting on this book. There are other books about Effa Manley. There's a children's book called Baseball's Leading Lady by Andrea Williams, but I believe this is one of the only ones for adults. So if you love baseball, historical fiction, and you want to learn about Effa Manley, then this is the book for you. I can't wait to read this book. Now we'll hand it back over to Sarah.
Thanks, Tammy. All right. Yeah, some really good picks, a lot of really fun summary ones, and some thrillers. So I hope you all found some really great reads to do this summer, especially if you're going on vacation. So before we have our Q&A session, I just have some sort of wrap up things. If you do have any questions for us, please go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll have a bit of a Q&A session in just a minute here. So you've heard about a lot of great picks, but if you want even more picks, you should try out our personalized reading service. This is the form you fill out on our website with what you like and what you don't like. And in less than a week, usually just within a couple days, we will send you a list of 5 titles that we think that you will enjoy. So please try out that service. Also, like I said at the beginning, this program is part of our Adult Summer Reading Club programming. So summer reading challenges are not just for children, they're for adults too. So if you have not signed up yet for Adult Summer Reading Club, please stop in your local branch and sign up, or you can sign up on our Beanstack app, which is the app we use for all of our different reading challenges. You get a free book just for signing up, just for registering. You get entered into a raffle for Cardinals tickets at the halfway point. And then at the end, you get this cute little tote bag. And then if you keep reading beyond that and earn some bonus points, you're entered into a raffle for some other great prizes, some gift cards and things like that. So yes, please sign up. It's 1 point for every minute of reading, or you can get 20 points for attending library events like this one. So you can get 20 points just for attending tonight. And we have some upcoming programs that you may be interested in if you like stories. So we have the Backstage Pass introducing the Reps new studio season coming up on Monday, July 22nd at 7 p.m. at the Clark Family Branch. That's our newly opened replacement location for headquarters. It's at the same location as our headquarters, but it's now called Clark Family. It's beautiful. It just opened yesterday. So yeah, go and see a preview. They'll be talking about all of the different shows that they're doing and giving you sort of a preview of some of the different shows. It should be a really fun time. And then I am teaching a series of Hobbit yoga classes, Hobbit chair yoga classes, where we'll explore themes from the book while doing some stretching and relaxation. I've already taught several classes of it, but there are 2 sessions left, one on Wednesday, July 17th at the Thornhill branch, and one on Tuesday, July 23rd at the Florissant Valley branch. Beginners, welcome. And with that, I think we will head to questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and all of the presenters, you can turn your cameras back on. And let's see here. It does look like we have some questions in the chat. So let's see here. Well, the first few are not questions. They are comments, but nice ones. Someone said that they really loved the villa. And another, a compliment for Tammy, saying that they loved your suggestions and your enthusiasm.
Right.
We do too, which is why we love having Tammy present with us. Okay, oh, we do have one question about whether anyone has read any books by Tamron Hall, and maybe if you have, which one you would suggest. I suspect that at least one of you has read a Tamron Hall book before.
I haven't, it's so funny. It's on my dining room table. Is As the Wicked Watch. I haven't read it, but it's on my TBR to read. So yeah, it's on my dining room table. Yep. So I'm looking forward to reading it.
Have you, Harry?
No, I'm familiar, but I haven't read it. Haven't read that author.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, another compliment for us, especially for Harry and I, someone who said that they wanted to give a shout out for the personalized reading service. They loved it. Harry and I are the ones that answer those. So thank you very much for the compliment. We appreciate it. We hope that all of you try it out. Let's see. Someone asked if any of these books are available in book discussion kits. I'm trying to think. None of mine are, although I think a couple of mine would make good picks. Several of mine are quite new books. We order book discussion kits twice a year. And so often, so there's like sort of a process that it takes to get the new kits. But I have a couple on my list that I do think would make really good book discussion kits, including The Eyes and the Impossible and I'm Afraid You Got Dragons. I think both of those would be fun. I can't remember any of the rest of yours book kits, or do you think would be a good book discussion pick?
I don't think any of mine are book discussion kits either. The only like older book I believe is The Duke and and I don't think I've seen that on the book discussion kit list. All the other ones are fairly new, so.
Yeah. I don't think mine are kits, but I think that This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan may be a kit because it's a hit with book clubs.
And Harry, you mentioned one of yours has book discussion questions in it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, mine did too.
That was my first one. Seven Summers has a music playlist and discussion questions. And
Yes,
so does This Summer Will Be Different. So 2 of mine have questions.
Yeah,
Awesome.
one of mine has questions and a playlist and recipes. This Could Be Us has discussion, questions, recipes, and a playlist.
Nice. Let's see. Questions. Someone asked about a new book coming out by author S.A. Cosby. Does anyone know when that might be coming out? I'm not sure either. Okay.
No, I love him, but
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
just had a book come out. So
Is it Razor Blade Tears? Is that the
no,
latest?
his latest book is All the Sinners
All the
Bleed.
Sinners Bleed. All the Sinners Bleed. Okay.
Yeah, that's the best one. I mean, he's been getting better and better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, okay, we did have one question about someone who joined a bit late. And yes, I said this at the beginning, but since you joined late, I'll say it again for anyone that did join late. This program is being recorded and we'll be posting it on our YouTube channel, and I'll send out an email to everyone that registered when that recording is available. It's usually available within 3 business days, often sooner than that. So, okay. Okay, we have a question which we actually get kind of a lot, which is about how much time we spend reading or how much we read. And they said, aren't you tired of books after working at the library? But no, because we actually don't always we don't really get to read at work very much. We're spending a lot of time helping patrons. Harry and I work with the book discussion kits. We do patron service. We plan programs like this. I will say, so I'll start first. So I do love books, but it's one of many hobbies that I have. So I probably read on average 2 books a month, although some books months I read more than that and some less, but on average that's about how much I read. And I'm not counting books that I skim for work. I do sometimes skim through books for professional purposes. But for my own reading, I do about 2. I tend to read early in the morning or before bed. I do audio and I have a Kindle. So I read in a bunch of different formats in order to kind of like fit reading in where it makes sense for me. So I'll do a regular book or a Kindle or an audiobook depending on how I can like squeeze it into my day. So that's kind of how I fit it into my life. I don't know if any of the you other 3 would like to answer.
Yeah, so I actually I am new to the library system. I've only been here for a year. But before that, I had a like 10-year reading slump where I only read like 2 to 5 books a year, and that was basically it. I was a super big reader in like high school, and I would read like a book a week. Now, since I've worked here, and especially like this year, I've actually read 30 books already this year, which is very high for me. And I'm like super proud of myself. I'm like, yay, I'm getting back into reading. But I usually read at night. Sometimes I read a little too late into the night, and then it comes back to bite me the next day at work. I'm like, oh, but it was so worth it. But yeah, so I've read a little bit this year so far. I don't think I would get tired of books even after working here for a long period of time. I don't think that's possible for me.
Let's see. I read about 2 books a month, a book for a book club, and then a book of my own. Lately, I've been reading children's books, which I've really been enjoying. Chapter books, YA novels, I've read those. Let's see, I read before bed and I do audio. My husband got me my own book light, so I read before, which I love. So I read before bed. But yeah, I usually read about 2 books a month.
Let's see, I have to write reviews, so I do 1 a month for that, and then would say maybe 2 a week. Like Sarah, I do 1 written and 1 audio every week.
Harry reads very fast. So he's a big reader. Yeah, so I think, you'll see like people who work at the library have kind of varying amounts that they can fit books into their lives as much as we like books. So we're all avid readers, but yeah, I hope that those tips can help you fit reading into your life too. Let's see. Oh, someone asked our opinion and in our professional opinions, does listening to audiobooks count as having read the book? And I would say absolutely yes.
Yes.
Yes. Any format that you read it in. I will sometimes switch back and forth between the audio and the printed book as well, or I'll do them both at the same time. So I'll like read with my eyes and listen with my ears. So yeah, audiobooks count. And if you're doing summer reading club, the minutes that you listen do count towards your minutes for the summer reading club. Okay. Okay, someone has asked about whether we do programs like this for children's books or YA books, and they do from time to time. And we did do one that was for teen adult crossover books, like maybe a year and a half ago. But I will put in your suggestion for Harry and I work for the Adult Services Department, but we will put in your suggestion to the Youth Services Department to remind them that that might be a good program to do sometime soon.
And Sarah, we have the youth personalized reading list now.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Harry. Yeah, so the personalized reading list was originally designed for adults. We've been doing the personalized reading list for over a decade now. We started doing it in 2013, and it was originally designed for adults. And Harry and I would get requests from or for children and teens from time to time, and we would answer those as a courtesy. However, just recently, we have sort of change the form so that when you choose your age level, and there's now a form for kids and teens too, and they are answered by the experts in our youth services department. And those forms are designed a bit more to get the right information from kids, like reading level and other kinds of like interests that kids have. So yeah, if you have young readers in your life or the whole family wants to fill out the form, please do. Okay. Yeah. So one says they often read past their bedtime to have a book hangover. Awesome. Well, if anyone has any other questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. I will ask one more question before we go. Are any of you and presenters reading anything right now, or have like something that you just finished that you didn't put on the list that you might be interested in talking up? Not a whole book talk, but just, mentioning.
So because of my birding with benefits making me like into like bird watching, I actually am reading Bird Watching for Dummies.
Oh,
So
that makes sense.
I'm finding that very interesting at the moment.
I just finished a children's book, Alone in the Woods by Rebecca Behrens, and those kids had me stressed out, but that was a good one. Oh man, that's a good one. So I recommend that for kids. That was a great book.
I just finished The Wolves of K Street by Brody and Luke Mullins, which is nonfiction about Washington lobbyists. What's Not to Love? Roger Stone, Paul Manafort, Tommy Boggs. It starts out with a lobbyist shooting himself to death, and then we find out in the book why, what kind of scandals. It's really entertaining.
Awesome. Yeah, I recently started Moonbound by Robin Sloan. I talked about this book in our in-person program in April, Lit Lovers, where Harry and I present with our two selectors, material selectors, to talk about forthcoming fiction. So it was forthcoming when I talked about it at that event, but it is out now, and I recently started it, and I'm really enjoying it. It's delightful. I don't know. Robin Sloan's stuff is very unique in its world building. So I'm enjoying it. Okay, it looks like we have a couple more questions. Oh yeah, the book, someone has asked if anyone has read the book James. We have had that suggested as a book discussion kit. I suspect it probably will become one at some point. Have any of you read that book?
Excellent.
Mhm.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then it looks like one last question. Someone asked, if you want to sign up for the reading challenge, is the Beanstack account the same as your library account? You'll sign up because a variety of libraries use the Beanstack app. So you want to make sure that you're choosing your St. Louis County library when you sign up for it. Unless you can have multiple libraries, like, so if you're doing it through St. Louis Public or something too, but yeah, make sure that you're choosing SLCL as your library, because this app is used by a lot of different libraries. Okay. Well, I think that's it. And we're just about at 8 o'clock. So I want to give a thank you to all the presenters, but especially to Lee and Tammy for taking time out of your branch duties to present with us tonight. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you have a great summer reading club. And thank you to everyone for attending tonight. We hope that you sign up for Adult Summer Reading Club and that you join us at another program soon. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.